Welcome to Whispering Cabins, where we share cozy horror tales of ghosts, folklore, and forgotten places. So grab a blanket, light a candle, and settle in. The night is waiting. Tonight, we tell the story of the lanterns of Penhollow. Penhollow was the kind of town that looked as if it had been painted into the hills rather than built. Its cobblestone streets glistened with dew at dawn. Its cottages leaned politely toward one another, and the old trees bent their branches low, as though eavesdropping on the lives below. What made Penhollow unusual were the lanterns. Every night, just before the church bell tolled 8, the lanterns along Main Street flickered to life on their own. No caretaker lit them. No one claimed responsibility, and yet they burned. Soft amber globes that swayed as if stirred by invisible hands. Children dared each other to touch them, but no one ever did. Even the bravest stopped just short, saying the light hummed against their skin like a warning. Eleanor Graves, who had lived in Penhollow all her 46 years, knew better than to linger by those lamps. Her grandmother had told her the rule when she was small: when the lanterns glow, be home. When the bells toll, lock your door. Eleanor followed that rule faithfully until the autumn when Penhollow began to change. It started subtly. The lanterns, once steady in their glow, began to flicker erratically. Some nights, they cast long shadows that stretched too far across the cobblestones, reaching windows and curling under doors. Eleanor noticed whispers carried on the wind, like dry leaves brushing together. People claimed to hear their names spoken, soft as breath, when they passed beneath the lamps. Then came the disappearances. Mrs. Wickham, the baker's wife, failed to return from delivering a late loaf. A schoolboy named Thomas vanished on his walk home. Search parties scoured the hills and marshes, but no tracks or signs remained. Only the lanterns swaying in the night, brighter than ever. Still, life in Penhollow pressed on. The townsfolk whispered their prayers, tightened their curtains, and told themselves the old rules would keep them safe. But Eleanor had grown restless. On the first night of frost, Eleanor sat in her parlour with the fire burned low. Outside, the lanterns flickered in patterns she had never seen before, almost like a pulse, quick and uneven. Against her better judgment, she left her chair, wrapped her shawl, and stepped outside. The air was brittle and cold, the moon sharp as bone above the roofs. Eleanor walked down the lane until she reached the first lantern. It swayed though there was no wind. The glass panes fogged as if something inside were breathing. "Who's there?" she asked before she could stop herself. The lantern flared, and for an instant she saw a face pressed against the glass, pale, wide-eyed, and soundless, mouthing words she couldn't hear. She stumbled back, clutching her shawl, but the lantern dimmed to its usual glow. That night, Eleanor dreamed of the missing townsfolk. They stood in a long row, hands clasped, their bodies glowing faintly like embers. Each held a lantern in their palms, the light seeping through their fingers as though it belonged to them now. One by one, they turned their faces toward her, and Eleanor felt the weight of their hollow eyes. She woke gasping, her curtains swaying though her window was latched. The next evening, she went again. Curiosity pulled harder than fear. She stopped beneath the same lantern, and this time, when the glass fogged, she pressed her own hand against it. Cold, colder than ice. The face appeared again, this time Thomas, the schoolboy, his lips moving slowly. She leaned close, straining to hear. "Come," he mouthed. "Come with us." The lantern light flared, and Eleanor's reflection dissolved. For a heartbeat, she saw an endless black corridor filled with swaying lanterns, each one cradling a figure inside. They glowed faintly, their eyes closed, as though dreaming. She jerked her hand away. The vision vanished. Over the following days, Eleanor kept to her routines but could not banish the pull of that otherworldly corridor. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of the disappearances. Some suggested leaving Penhollow altogether, though no one ever did. The town was bound to its rules, its rhythms, its shadows. On the final night of October, when mist coiled thick through the streets, Eleanor made her choice. She wrapped herself in her heaviest shawl, lit a candle, and stepped into the fog. The lanterns glowed brighter than ever, humming like a chorus. She walked down Main Street, past shuttered windows, until she reached the old stone well at the square. The largest lantern hung there, swaying above the dark mouth of the well. Eleanor touched the glass. The cold shot through her bones, but this time she did not pull away. The lantern flared, the corridor appeared, and she saw her grandmother there, waiting, smiling faintly, her lantern-light body glowing with quiet warmth. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. All those she had lost stood in the endless row, hands outstretched, their faces calm, almost peaceful. "Come," they mouthed again. And so she did. Her candle guttered out in the mist. The lantern swung once, twice, and steadied. By morning, Penhollow found her gone. The townsfolk shook their heads, bolted their doors tighter, and whispered the rule again to their children. When the lanterns glow, be home. When the bells toll, lock your door. But if you visit Penhollow on a misty autumn night and dare to look closely, you might see Eleanor's face glowing faintly behind the glass, watching, waiting, and whispering to the next soul who lingers too long. Thank you for joining us tonight at Whispering Cabins, where we tell cozy horror tales. If you enjoyed The Lanterns of Penhollow, be sure to subscribe for more eerie stories. Until next time, keep warm, keep the lantern lit, and listen closely. Sometimes the shadows have stories to tell.